You've got to do a little prep work before you can sew the front to the back. So you've got to take all the limbs, push the stuffing and or rice as far back as you can, throw a pin in about 2 to 2.5 centimeters from the edge. That's going to make it easier to sew. They all have to go on the inside. So the arms, the legs, the ears, they all have to stay here. And I have fairly small ears, legs. The arms are a little longer. So I just have to make sure they're out of the way. If you did something like an octopus and you have long arms, you may have to bunch them up a little bit. So good side up, and then I take the back and put it good side down. So I'm going to pin some main parts first, the corner of the bottom. I'll pin the top of the head. And then I'll pin either side of the neck. And this is just to make sure that before I pin in between that it's centered, balanced, and even looking. And then I'll put a lot more pins in. And I'm going to sew the whole thing, but I will have to leave a little opening. So I'm going to double pin, and I try to do that opening at a straighter part. You don't want it right on a round curve. So I'm going to put 2 pins right here. I'm going to start there, and 2 pins right here. I'm going to end there, and I'm going to sew all the way around, reversing at the beginning, and then all the way and reversing at the end, and then I'm going to flip that. So I've put a lot of pins in, and I've checked on the back to make sure it's evenly matched. I put on a walking foot because this now is fairly thick, especially where the limbs are. I line it up on the one where the first double pins are, put the needle down, foot down, and then I'll remove those first 2 pins. Sew a few stitches, reverse a few stitches. And I'm just going to very slowly take my time, removing pins just before I get to them, and sew this whole thing on the one. Now if you want to sew it slightly wider than the one, that's actually not a bad idea, because what you don't want to show is that seam on all of the limbs where you sewed them shut. You want that to remain hidden. So now I'm almost back to where I started. I'm back to the second set of double pins. So I get there, needle in, foot up, take those pins out, do a reverse. Cut those threads, and I've left an opening of about 8 centimeters so that I have enough room to flip this whole creature. So cut your threads, pull out any pins that you didn't need to as you went, and then flip it over and just double check on the other side that it is fully caught everywhere. Yep, that's good. So now I'm ready to flip, but remember, I still have some pins inside where I pinned down the limbs and the ears, so just careful as you're flipping this right side out. It's actually not a bad idea as you get close to those just to remove them as you're sewing. I did that a few times when I was sewing this together. Okay, so let's see. Any pins anywhere? Just a few. All right. I think he's okay. So now, just before I stuff him, I'm just going to check everywhere, make sure there's no holes. Oh, there's one more pin. No holes anywhere. Make sure I can't see the stitching lines where I sewed the limbs shut. If I see them, I may have to turn it inside out again and go back and sew them. Yeah, he looks pretty good. So we're ready to stuff. I'm going to do the head first, and again, just a bit at a time. And once you've got them stuffed how you'd like, then you're going to hand sew that opening shut. You're going to be using the ladder stitch like we did on the sample. If you can't remember how to do it, just go back and watch that video again. So you're going to thread a needle and knot it. And you just have a small amount to hand sew. And the reason you know we have to hand sew is because once you stuff this, it's just too big to machine sew it. So stuff them how you like. And then if you want to glue anything else on, I think I might glue a little jewel right in his belly, like he has a pierced belly button, and then he'll be finished. So my little creature is done. I glued a jewel on his belly. I put a little bow tie on his neck. If you have extra time, I can show you how to make a bow tie, a scarf, a hat, a sweater, little pair of boxers. Feel free to make some extra clothes for him, but only if you have extra time.